What you know, Alibis. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Monday, September 22nd. I didn't get to do as many episodes as I wanted last week. Grammy was readmitted to the hospital, but some good news. She had her cardioversion on Friday and has just done a 180 and is doing so much better. So thank you guys for the prayers and the well wishes. They have worked. I had the funeral for my friend Taekwana on Saturday. And then yesterday, I celebrated my 48th birthday, which was the best birthday I've had yet. But this week, y'all, we're full force. Today, we're going to keep going on this Barry Morphew document that was filed with his latest arrest. I am thinking about picking up this David story, the man who went viral on TikTok, and subsequently they found his 16-year-old girlfriend's decomposing body in a trunk. I would like to start researching that this afternoon and do a What We Know So Far episode. As far as I know, he hasn't been arrested, so this is going to be one to watch. But let's jump into Morphew. So just a trigger warning on this. I know some people are very sensitive to this kind of thing. So if you are a little squeamish about autopsy stuff, you may want to fast forward just about a minute, although this is mainly skeletal remains, so there wasn't anything super graphic in the description, but it is a human being named Suzanne Morphew and what they found when they found her remains. They received 3 large paper bags containing bones, 7 brown paper bags containing clothes, and 7 envelopes containing items to be described. The 3 large paper bags contained multiple human and non-human bones, fragments, dirt, and a wood fragment. They recovered the skull with the lower jawbone, the sacrum, which is the bone at the very base of the spine, multiple ribs, long arm bones from both sides, the breastbone and the sternum, the right shoulder blade, the collarbone, left and right femurs, which are the big bones at the top of your leg, the right and left lower leg bones, and multiple vertebrae. In the 7 brown paper bags, they found a pale patterned ski mask, a pink and light colored leather work glove, light colored partial padded bra, a ripped dark gray and blue hooded sweatshirt labeled Crested Butte, a torn green Nike tank top, Yeti shorts, and a fabric fragment. The clothing and fabric fragment are all weathered and covered in dirt. They did keep 1 weathered bullet and released 3 teeth for DNA testing. They took a fragment of the femur and the femur head for toxicology testing prior to release for forensic anthropology examination. Those results are later on in the document, and we will get to those once they're building their case against Barry Morphew. In a May 11th interview done by Sergeant Hiss Julian, they spoke with one of Suzanne and Barry's daughters. She said Suzanne wrote religious devotionals in a journal, and as for the daughter's bedroom where the sheets were found to be off the bed, she said her bed is always made and then described the color of the bedding. This next part wasn't clear if this is the same daughter or the other daughter, but she admitted that her parents argued a lot and she feared they would separate or divorce. She said they were not doing well, and maybe it was for the best they would separate, and that they were both in an unsafe place emotionally. They argued and they get into fights. She said Suzanne and Barry both have just not felt safe at some point. They weren't getting along and had discussed divorce. In a footnote, it says in multiple FBI interviews in 2021, Barry denied they ever discussed divorce. She said she didn't look at any text messages on her parents' phones, and in the footnote, it says that this contradicts Barry's repeated assertions to CBI that he deleted arguments between him and Suzanne on his phone because his daughters always looked at his phone. When asked if it were possible that Suzanne left because she didn't feel safe, the daughter said her mom wouldn't leave her. She would have contacted her or her sister to let them know she was okay. Her and her sister were headed home on May 10th with a friend, but there was no plans for them to actually stay at the Morphew home. The daughter said Suzanne always carried her phone and kept a charging cable by the nightstand. And in a footnote, it says when the residence was searched, law enforcement did not locate a charging cable on either nightstand. Back to an interview with the couple that went over to the house initially. Mrs. Ritter said one of the daughters contacted her and her husband on May 10th, 2020 because she couldn't reach Suzanne. She asked them to go to the house to check on her. Mrs. Ritter could not locate Suzanne at the house, so She called Barry and told him what happened. Barry asked Mrs. Ritter to look for Suzanne's bike and to call 911 if she didn't locate Suzanne. She went back to the house to look again, and then her husband called 911 to report Suzanne missing. Mr. Ritter sent his wife back to the residence to leave a few notes posted just in case Suzanne returned. Moving on to Barry's interview on May 11th, 2020. He said he left his residence at 5 a.m. on May 10th to travel to Broomfield, Colorado for a construction job. In the footnote, it says that Barry's phone entered airplane mode at 4:32 a.m. and he altered his numerous prior accounts to law enforcement to match phone and truck evidence when speaking to FBI agents later on in April of 2021. Barry said he turned left on Highway 50 when leaving his house, which is the opposite direction to Broomfield, and he said he did so because he saw a bull elk crossing the road. Barry pointed to an area on Google Maps that indicated he turned his truck around at an exit in Garfield, Colorado, which is about 5 miles in the opposite direction that his trip should have taken him. He said he did not speak to Suzanne that morning because she was still asleep when he left. His 2 daughters were coming home that day from a camping trip. He texted Suzanne to wish her a happy Mother's Day and got no response, and he said possibly due to poor cell reception. He again tried later that morning with no response and then texted his daughters, who also said they could not reach Suzanne. Barry specifically provided his route of travel to Broomfield, and in all subsequent interviews, he never stated he turned west on Highway 50. In a footnote, it says that Suzanne's helmet was discovered off the south side of Highway 50, west of the County Road 225 entrance that leads into the Morphew's Puma Path residence. Suzanne's plan for May 10th was to clean the house and get the spare bedrooms ready for their daughter and possibly a friend to visit. He said Suzanne rides her mountain bike every day and also mentioned Suzanne had been diagnosed with cancer twice and beat it. He said he owned firearms, and the firearms and ammo are stored in a locked gun safe in the garage. In the report, it says it should be noted on May 11th, while law enforcement searched the residence, 2 firearms located were not in a gun safe. A high-powered rifle was located in a closet on the ground floor. The rifle was spray-painted in a camo pattern, and law enforcement could not locate a serial number. A 12-gauge shotgun was found lying against the wall in a garage. Also, a loaded .22 caliber long rifle cartridge was located lying on the floor of the master bedroom near the right side of the bed. After this interview ended, Barry was told his truck would be seized for processing. May 11th, the search of the Puma Path residence. They found what appeared to be suspected blood on the apron of the garage near the east side of the 3-car garage. There was also a Bobcat skid steer parked in the parking area west of the Morphew residence. Next to the Bobcat was a flatbed trailer. The trailer was in the tilt position. The trailer bed had some loose gravel and dirt on it. The trailer did not have a jack on it, and the tongue of the trailer was lying on the ground. The skid steer was parked to the left side near the trailer tongue. The items were positioned such that the skid steer bucket appeared to have been used to unhitch the trailer from a vehicle, most likely Barry's truck, and then set the trailer on the ground. Law enforcement noticed the cutting edge of the skid steer bucket had been recently replaced, so there was no wear on it. Also noted were several large bolts and nuts lying on the skid steer bucket and on the front end of the trailer bed. In a footnote, it says, in a news story that aired on Fox 21, August 21st, 2020, Barry stated that he had an inconsistency with one timeline. I was only because when I just didn't know the time that I did something, a mechanical thing to my Bobcat. I was confused, and I just found out my wife was missing. Moving on to the CBI crime scene report. The interior of Barry's truck was cluttered with several personal items. The interior dash area was dusty and dirty. In a footnote, the interior condition of his truck conflicts with his subsequent statements to CBI and the FBI that the purposes of his 5 trash runs in Broomfield were to clean out his truck. As far as Suzanne's white Range Rover, they found personal items, including her driver's license and credit card, and items were removed by sections, photographed, and placed on butcher paper. Some of the other items inside of her car collected included a woman's jacket and a knit cap, pairs of sunglasses, a key in the glove compartment, a Camelback, and there is a footnote that says on Suzanne's Instagram pictures of her riding her bike have her blue Camelback water pack visible, making it unlikely she would have taken a bike ride without it. They also found sunglasses in the front passenger seat, spa chemicals on the front passenger floorboard, and a Scott bicycle receipt in the front driver door. Regarding the tranquilizer dart cap that was found, it says a plastic needle cover was located in the dryer drum. This was collected by the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office along with different items from different areas. The needle cover was recovered with sheets from the daughter's bed inside the dryer. Section 2, Suzanne's attempts to leave Barry and her affair. Suzanne told numerous close friends, her daughters, and Barry that she wanted out of her marriage, yet Barry refused to listen to her. She suspected Barry of having affairs for years and kept her affair very secretive to protect her daughters as well as her boyfriend's family. A small portion of interviews and evidence of her attempts to leave Barry and her affair follows. There was an interview with Sheila Oliver. She was interviewed via telephone. She's Suzanne's best friend who lives in Philadelphia, and they were in constant contact through texts and Snapchats until May the 9th. She said Suzanne would promptly check her Snapchat, and she was worried Suzanne did not read 3 messages from her May 9th at 6:40 p.m. and 6:48 p.m. Suzanne had been very excited about the wedding of Sheila's daughter on May 10th. Suzanne was helping Sheila to prepare for the wedding and was eager to watch it online. Sheila did provide law enforcement with text messages from Suzanne. On March 25th of 2020, Suzanne said, taking care of myself physically in a stressful marriage, and I had a very tough talk yesterday. She's weary of the tension here. She knows how he is towards me and almost begged me to divorce him. Her friend Sheila asks, what does he want? Have you talked any more about splitting? Suzanne said he threatens, but I've never come out and said I wanted it today. He thinks I'm holding on till one of the daughters graduates at least. He probably thinks I'm not strong enough to do it, given finances. Suzanne goes on to say their 16-year-old daughter suggested a restraining order, and Suzanne said that she was sick that she had conversations like that with her daughter. Sheila says he's nuts. Suzanne replies, it's a Jekyll and Hyde again. Pretty much told him I can't be healthy and stay in this. Sheila asks, what did he say? Suzanne said he threatens to come home and pack. He won't speak of divorce. There's a footnote. When confronted with this, Barry didn't remember having that conversation with her. Suzanne said Barry was begging for another chance, and she says she's torn. But in my heart, I know who he is. During that interview, Sheila also told Detective Burgess that she was so concerned with Barry's behavior that she purchased a spy pin for Suzanne, which she gave to her in January of 2020 when they met up in Florida. The device was designed to record conversations covertly. Sheila told FBI agents in 2021 that Barry called her in the summer of 19 when Suzanne was in Michigan, asking why Suzanne was not returning his calls. She said he stalked Suzanne and Sheila at the Puma Path house in September 2019 to see what Suzanne was up to. Barry was sneaking through the woods, and she also mentions earlier accounts in Indiana when Barry suspected Suzanne may have a boyfriend, and this was before they actually got married. There was an interview with Suzanne's sister, Melinda. She last talked to Suzanne May 8th on a text message. She sent Suzanne a text on Mother's Day with no response. For the previous 6 months, Suzanne texted her sister that things were getting tense between her and Barry. Suzanne told her she realized what a narcissist Barry was and had come to terms with his narcissistic ways. She described Barry as somebody who lives a double life, a liar, an adulterer, a bully, one who has to have control, cunning, fools people a lot, loves money, and treats his wife and daughters as trophies. She said Suzanne was a codependent person and dependent on Barry, but she said they lived a phony life and would put on a front as if they were happy. She did think it was unusual for the daughters to take a road trip on Mother's Day weekend, especially with the COVID pandemic ongoing. She got a call from her dad May 11th informing her that Suzanne was missing. November 20th, 2020, Special Agent Grusing spoke to Suzanne's sister about a text from May 8th, 2020 at 9:28 a.m. Suzanne texted, "It's hard dealing with the harsh abrasiveness and having to show respect. He's also been abusive emotionally and physically. There is so much. I went through a period of acceptance and I feel more angry now. Anger at what I've allowed." Now, her sister didn't have context as to why Suzanne texted that Barry was emotionally and physically abusive. That was something they had not discussed, and she was surprised to get that text from Suzanne. But when she found out Suzanne was missing, she was certain Barry killed her. She said Suzanne was a submissive housewife to Barry in Indiana, allowing him to control finances, and Suzanne's longtime suspicions were that Barry was having affairs. She thought the reason for moving to Colorado was because Barry had wanted to for a long time for the hunting. She thinks Suzanne threw caution to the wind and moved to try and save the marriage and start over. Her sister also noted Suzanne inherited approximately $208,000 from their mother, who passed away in 2013, and another approximately $217,000 when her grandmother-in-law passed in 2016. They move on to notes from Suzanne's phone. They got the files from Suzanne's phone on July 7th of 2020. Those notes were found backed up to the iCloud on May 8th. The list. It says Monkey app, which functions as a dating website, physical abuse, mental abuse while drinking on New Year's Eve, name calling and said I only needed him for the money, women on Facebook, good for business, lies about deer, and then it says pants unzipped, trip to Colorado, pen on hand, white bear claw, and a FaceTime in Arizona angry, stalking Sheila and me in the house without telling, chased me around the resort and threatened, took phone, not safe alone with you, can't be trusted, oppressive, slams on brakes when angry, threatens to jump out of the car, gun, shame and guilt daily for not meeting expectations, nothing to do with infidelity, everything to do with your character and who you are at core. Your lack of control over me equals insecurities, which equals a sick relationship. A situation with somebody whose name is redacted. When I'm in/accuse me of going behind your back. Got up and left redacted and me at the table. Left plate, no comment, just to watch TV. Acts like I'm intruding in the garage. Verbal abuse. Writing checks for cash out of the business account. Wiring money from investment account without asking or discussing. Money is in your name only. Pulling redacted's hair, I'm assuming maybe a daughter, and hurting her. Left 2 times on treatment weeks. Bedroom profession about marrying, having babies, and sleeping together. Don't care about pregnancy possibilities. Hot tub, talking to self with a question mark. Accused me of boyfriend and something that is redacted. May 6th of 2020. Knew I was looking at phone in bonus with a question mark. Next up is the May 6th, 2020 message to Barry saying she was done and let's handle this civilly. Barry likely swiped this off of his screen and that swiped image was inadvertently saved. However, it was not recovered in Suzanne or Barry's phones. Upon recovery of Suzanne's spy pin, Special Agent Grusing and Special Agent Kenneth Harris began prioritizing anyone named Jeff in Suzanne's social media, phone records, or other accounts. On the pin, Suzanne spoke to an unknown male named Jeff while she was in Florida as if he was her lover, but no last name or phone number was provided. After months of investigation and after working through a list of about 20 or more Jeffs possibly associated with Suzanne, they identified Jeff as a former high school friend of Suzanne's. He was later identified and interviewed. He provided the following information. This interview was on November 4th, 2020. They spoke with him on the phone and recognized his voice as being the voice on Suzanne's pen recording. After discussing his relationship with Suzanne and Jeff talking about their secret meetings, he asked to continue the interview in person. He said after he learned Suzanne went missing, he figured there's no way she's alive. He said he's not proud about coming forward, giving his reasons to agents that he has 6 kids and a wife and will likely lose his job. When Suzanne went missing, he thought she was abducted, so he kept quiet. He stated that as time went by, he didn't want her girls to find out. He doesn't think Barry knew about him and Suzanne or what set him off, other than the fact that the guy could easily be set off by anything. He said, "I'm sure you guys know that." Jeff said he didn't feel like he had anything to add and didn't want to hurt anybody. He was interviewed again on November 13th, 2020 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He said after Suzanne's first message of "howdy stranger" to him in November of 2018, they began talking on the phone. He said he was nervous to talk to agents and says what he did was disgraceful. In the summer after Jeff's first year of college in Indiana, he attended a party with some friends at Suzanne's house. At that point, Barry and Suzanne were a couple, but Barry wasn't at the party. Jeff said he and Suzanne kind of hooked up, not really, at the party. At the time, Jeff played golf almost daily and Barry worked on the golf course. Barry found out about them hooking up at the party, and upon seeing Jeff on the golf course, Barry jumped off the tractor and, according to Jeff, he was ready to beat me down. He told Barry, "You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose everything." He talked him out of it, and that was the last interaction Jeff had with Barry. Jeff said he did not talk to Suzanne until 2018 following that night in Indiana. He said, "I'd tell her I carried a torch for her all the time." They used to FaceTime to communicate in 2018, though Jeff's daughter saw one of their communications in late 2018, and Jeff told Suzanne they had to stop. They didn't speak until around Christmas of 2018 because Jeff deleted Facebook, Instagram, and all messaging between him and Suzanne. Around Christmas 2018, Suzanne found Jeff's LinkedIn account and sent a message with the words to the effect of, "I'm worried sick about you. Are you okay?" Jeff responded to the message and they began talking again. First, it was very platonic, but then their relationship progressed again. Jeff said they communicated through FaceTime but did not physically see each other in 2018. They communicated on a regular basis from late 2018 through May 9th of 2020. And she provided him with numerous reasons why she wanted to leave Barry. Between February 2019 and February 2020, Jeff and Suzanne met each other in New Orleans, Florida, Indianapolis, Michigan, Dallas, and then again in Florida. During the last 5 trips, they stayed in hotels, they talked, shared meals, and they had consensual sex. Jeff had not traveled to Colorado to see Suzanne, partly because Suzanne said Barry had surveillance cameras all around the house. Jeff stated, "Here's what she told me about her relationship with Barry. Not good. Lots of fights, very argumentative, and she felt like it was horrible for her health and her mental health." Jeff asked Suzanne if she felt afraid Barry would hurt her, and she answered he would never cross that line. He's learned. He took that to mean something had happened physically at one time to Suzanne, whether Barry shoved her or hit her. Agents asked Jeff when Suzanne first said she loved him, and he replied she told him that in 2018. They discussed they were soulmates and meant for each other. Eventually, they exchanged words of love to one another. Jeff explained they were soulmates because of their approaches to the world and to people. He said Suzanne treated people well, not simply for social stair climbing or status benefits. He was striving to be that same type of person. He stated he was not a good person, though. He was horrible for having this relationship with Suzanne. When agents asked Jeff how Suzanne took steps to be careful about Barry knowing about her travel activities, he said when Barry called, he would leave the room. This happened once in Suzanne's hotel room in New Orleans. Agents asked Jeff what other steps they took to conceal their relationship from Barry. He said, "We talked all the time about protect, for the kids, for the family, all that stuff." Suzanne knew when Jeff was going to be working in his car, and he never initiated conversation with a phone call or a text. They would communicate through his LinkedIn account in 2019 to determine when they could FaceTime. Agents asked if Suzanne ever spoke about leaving Barry. He said her plan was to get their daughter out of the house and to college before she would probably go out on her own. They talked about one day being together. She told Jeff this wasn't about him, it's about her getting away. He said Suzanne was not happy and mentally she just couldn't take it and it was wearing her out. Jeff had a corporate LinkedIn account and he created a second account to use to communicate with Suzanne. They stopped talking on the phone in December of 2019, And then he deleted his second LinkedIn account after Suzanne disappeared when he thought she was abducted. He said he didn't want her legacy to be she had an affair with this guy. In December of 2019, they stopped talking over the phone because Suzanne said they couldn't anymore. She said, Barry watches everything I do, and I'm afraid he's going to find out. Suzanne did mention an incident when she was on the beach in Mexico listening to music on her phone, and Barry was suspicious. Suzanne told Jeff that she handed her phone to Barry and said, do whatever you want. Go through it. They did use WhatsApp because they could talk and leave messages, but there was no phone record of that. He didn't think there would be any call records of them talking past December 2019. In October of 2019, he had a sales meeting in Dallas and Suzanne was traveling to Phoenix. She left a day early and went through Dallas and stayed at the same hotel as Jeff. They spent 2 nights at the hotel together, and Suzanne was going to the Phoenix conference to become a certified fitness instructor with the mindset of, what am I going to do if I leave him? She talked to him about Barry's moods and his anger, saying as long as he gets what he wants, everything's fine. Jeff said he and Suzanne had a mutual understanding not to dive too much into the problems they had with their spouses. Jeff knew Suzanne had discussions with, the name is redacted, in March or April 2020 about separating from Barry and getting a divorce. Suzanne told Barry, I just want peace, and said she wanted it to be peaceful for the girls. Jeff thought in February of 2020, Suzanne was wanting to break out on her own, but still wanted to wait until their daughter graduated. Jeff said Suzanne felt some sort of shame that she had so much material-wise, so she spoke with him about life transformation. Barry held the huge houses and the Range Rovers over her head, and he would tell her things like, I provide these things for you. You have the greatest life. You have everything. $1 million home. You have Range Rovers. Jeff said that they never made concrete plans, but she did tell him several times when she did leave Barry, she would go without contacting Jeff for a while. Suzanne says she wasn't doing this for Jeff, but for herself. He said her talk of leaving Barry was like a wave, with a higher frequency of waves. Suzanne had faith God would provide for her, and she would figure it out. He did not know she had an inheritance until he read about it in the media. Between March and May of 2020, he and Suzanne talked a lot about mountain biking, and he looked at the trails online in Colorado, and sometimes they talked before Suzanne went for her ride. Suzanne would put her bike in her car on her way to the trailheads, and it wasn't often that she rode in her own neighborhood. She normally rode in the evenings for about half an hour or 40 minutes. The first week of May 2020, Suzanne told Jeff the girls were going on a camping trip that weekend. Jeff told investigators anytime Suzanne was alone with Barry, she dreaded it. She did not want to be alone with him, and Barry refused to go to counseling, though Suzanne offered to. Barry would tell Suzanne, you just need to be who you were to me and everything will be fine. Jeff said he thought 2 things could have happened to Suzanne, that Barry either learned about them and snapped, or maybe she told him she was going to leave. Agents asked Jeff what Barry's reaction was when Suzanne mentioned she wanted to separate, and Jeff responded he was very much against it. She would say because he wants everything to look perfect on the outside. Jeff didn't think Suzanne initially reached out to him with the intention of having a boyfriend. He described Suzanne as beautiful, kind, someone who treated other people well, and she was a good listener. Those were the traits that attracted him to her. He said Suzanne is naive in some ways because she assumed the best of people and did not see what lies beneath. While Suzanne lived in Indiana with Barry, he acted suspiciously, like he was having an affair. Jeff said, and then I can tell you too, over the last year, she was like, I'd love for him to find a new girlfriend and just get out. He said so long as Suzanne gratified Barry sexually, it was fine. He said, I don't think she was deriving a lot of pleasure out of things. When agents asked if he thought that or knew it, he said, I know. She said it's not pleasurable. Suzanne told him that she would not completely starve Barry of sex. Agents did confirm with Jeff that he no longer had the phone he used to speak to Suzanne with. He said in June of 2020, he dropped his phone on his stone steps and the faceplate shattered. He sent the phone to his company and they sent him a replacement. And the phone that was sent by his company had all of the same apps on it as his previous phone, but none of those personal apps. He did provide consent forms for his DNA, 3 phone records, and the logins for his social media accounts. Law enforcement served search warrants for LinkedIn and WhatsApp and received records for Suzanne's LinkedIn account. That included photos and text messages she shared with Jeff. Law enforcement also served warrants on the Verizon account for Jeff, and the following data was collected. Number 1, from LinkedIn, Jeff and Suzanne sent 59 communications to each other on Saturday, May 9th. The last outgoing message from Suzanne was at 2:11 p.m. when she messaged, "I'm on WhatsApp." Jeff responded at 2:39 p.m., 2:46 p.m., and 2:47 p.m., and Suzanne did not answer. He also sent messages on May 10th and May 11th that weren't answered. Number 2, Verizon records contained 738 calls between Jeff and Suzanne's number between October 2018 and December 2019. Suzanne called Jeff 74 times under international calls from the Cayman Islands between January 14th through the 18th in 2019. On December 18th, 2020, agents contacted Jeff by phone and showed him some of the results of the LinkedIn messaging and photos between him and Suzanne on May 9th of 2020. On May 9th, Suzanne sent a message to Jeff at 11:42 a.m. that stated, "Guess who's alone again?" He told agents that message meant they were free to talk and that Suzanne wasn't surprised Barry left her home alone. From referencing the LinkedIn messages before and after, he doesn't believe they used WhatsApp that time or later that day. They show the photo that Suzanne sent to Jeff at 2:03 p.m. on May the 9th. In a footnote, the FBI agents showed this photo to Barry multiple times in March and April of 2021, since it may be the last proof of life independent of Barry. Jeff messaged Suzanne at 2:46 p.m. on the 9th, "Hey, your weather looks great." That may have been in reference to the picture she sent earlier or Jeff checking conditions in Colorado through the internet. Suzanne never answered that message or subsequent messages by Jeff wishing her a happy Mother's Day on May 10th. Following the interview, Jeff sent agents a screenshot of his credit card charges for his Costco wholesale credit card for May 2020. They found he was in Michigan using his credit card at the time Suzanne disappeared, which obviously ruled him out as a suspect. So we are going to end there. We will pick back up maybe the day after tomorrow, but that is it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you soon.